technically just 90 miles away from the United States, Cuba continues to be a mystery to most Americans due to the difficult relationship between governments. For years, I've pined over travel videos and photos of Cuba until finally I decided to go myself.
Living my best life here in Havana.
Because I'm American, we used the backdoor route by flying from Cancun to Havana to avoid any bureaucratic issues. However, there are direct flights available from the US. In this video, I'm going to talk about the immigration process for Americans, currency and exchange rates, tourist activities, how communism impacts the way of life, and so much more. Check out my detailed guide to Cuba for Americans on my blog, wanderonwards.co. Wi-Fi is nearly non-existent in public spaces. Fortunately, our Casa Particulares had the hookup. Tourism can be a bit expensive in Havana. Trendy old car rides range from 20 to 30 USD per hour. Single cigars can range from $5 to $25. And FYI, most of the nice cigar and rum shops are owned by the government. However, Cuban rum is dead cheap. You can buy a decent bottle for less than 10 USD. When we arrived, I sailed through immigration with just a smile and a nod. They took my picture, I asked them not to stamp my passport, and we were through. No questions, itinerary, or proof of insurance needed. Life is not easy in Cuba, but everywhere we went, locals were happy to engage and give us insight into their way of life. We learned loads about Cuba from taxi drivers, waiters, and anyone else who would speak with us. Despite what you may have seen on the news, Cuba is something you have to see for yourself.
Hi guys, it's Vanessa from Wander Onwards, and today we're in Cuba. This is our first time in Havana, and it has been absolutely incredible. Currently, we're staying with Candil Boutique Hotel, and if you could pan that way a little bit, Marcus, you can see how gorgeous and colonial it is. There's a very rich history here. And we are so lucky to be here. So, first impressions of Cuba, the hustle. Everybody in the streets of Havana is trying to make a buck, and rightfully so. We've been learning that people's average salaries are anywhere from 25 CUC, which is the minimum national wage, to 80 to 100 for doctors. To give you some perspective, the CUC is pegged against the dollar. So 80 CUC means 80 American dollars per month. And I know that the cost of living is lower here, but we were told that there are powdered milk sachets, and for a liter of powdered milk, it was 4 CUC. So we're not entirely sure how people get by here, but we do know that everyone tries to make an additional buck, whether that's renting out their car, whether that's Airbnb-ing their home or their room. So people know how to make the best out of nothing.
Support this channel by giving this video a thumbs up or leave a question in the comments section. I always respond back.
So the second thing that's most prominent about Cuba is creativity. You'll see loads of makeshift restaurants, makeshift shops, makeshift businesses. People are using their cars now to deliver tours, to create taxi services for them. And really, you're seeing the impact of this sort of entrepreneurship in their ability to accumulate wealth. Now, what's interesting about that communist ability to accumulate wealth is there are limitations about how much personal property you can have versus private property. So in Cuba, there is no private property. People cannot own multiple homes. They cannot be property developers. All of the major hotels and resorts here are government owned. However, people can have personal property. And what that looks like is an individual Cuban can own up to 2 houses and 1 car. And this prevents the accumulation of generational wealth, but this also creates an interesting contrast between what the communist government and way of life proposes, such as equality amongst all, versus what they're actually allowing. So if you go to the main square that is surrounded by the government buildings where the Capitol is, you're going to see an incredible demonstration of wealth. But then once you move more into the Casa Particulares and the normal neighborhoods, you're gonna see that immediate shift. That's just so interesting to me. I love seeing how different parts of the world live, how people sustain themselves in the most amazing circumstances possible. And this trip has been a real eye-opening experience for me. So going back to the private versus personal property thing, because nobody can own more than 2 flats in their name, what happens when you have multiple flats in a single building? Who owns that building? The answer? No one. No one. And because of that, it automatically defaults to the government unofficially. However, when a hurricane hits, when your building is falling apart because of age, who's responsible for improving this building's infrastructure? The answer? No one. Not anyone. And although that would default to the government, we find that people are trying to pump in their personal capital to improve their lifestyles and businesses that they run out of their house, but it can be devastatingly expensive. So the national minimum wage is 25 CUC, and that's about $25 US per month. We've heard that some government employees are also paid in halves, so there's a local currency and there is the exchangeable currency that is pegged to the US dollars, and government employees have been paid in both recently, but that is likely to change. And so when you're making such limited currency and money, how do you invest in your home and your beautiful property to make sure that it's livable and that it's up to standard? Well, because there's such an energy and willingness to make a buck in different creative ways, people are using tourism to reinvest in their small businesses and their livelihoods. And that's why it's so important here to spend your money, to tip well, because a little bit goes a long, long way.
Thanks for watching. If you liked that video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to get notified about new videos every week.